afternoon, whenever you're listening to this, welcome to the internet's most sophisticated wrestling podcast, discussing the weekly aspects of it all, right here on
The Bald Monkeys Wrestling Podcast.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are in Houston, Texas, everybody.
Yeehaw.
We are here to see the Royal Rumble. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Bald Monkeys Wrestling Podcast. A very special Bald Monkeys Wrestling Podcast because, we are at the place that we're talking about. That's so rare that actually happens.
We're on assignment.
On location, yeah.
On location. And we've got 4 of us here, so we'll go through the introductions here. I, as always, the wonderful bus driver known as Big Baby Jimmy.
Jimmy.
Extra big because I've been eating everything here in Houston. We also have with us Christopher.
I'm here. I'm projecting into the mic as best I can for everybody out there.
Yes, and that is an inside joke that you may not get, but he's just jabbing it into my ribs right now. So we also have Captain Chuckles.
Yep, I'm here.
And also in this tiny little room right next to me, he's a tiny little guy.
Cheek to cheek.
Cheek to cheek. I have a Mr. Nickamura.
I tried to add some country music
and
to
he's
the
not
podcast.
on his plane today.
I'm not on the plane. I'm on a real mic. I added some hair to the Bald Monkeys podcast. I tried to add some country music, but too many technical difficulties.
So what you're saying is we got to shave your head today.
Oh, no.
Yes, we are definitely shaving his head today. That is what we're doing. There's no hair allowed. That's for sure. Because if there's one thing about the Bald Monkeys, pretty much all of them are bald. Or at least the majority.
My day will come.
Yeah.
So
Your day will come, yes.
So last night, before we get too far into it, this might not sound like every other podcast. You might hear noises here and there. It is what it is, you know. We're set up in hotel rooms, and it's housekeeping. You want me down below? Yeah. It is what it is, you know. We're like I said, we're here in Houston, so we're trying to record this podcast before we go to the Royal Rumble in a handful of hours. So we really wanted to get picks in, though, because around here picks are serious business. And far too long, Chuck, aka the Brock Lesnar of the Bald Monkeys podcast,
That is correct.
he has been holding this pick belt, and he has not been toppled. And so one of us needs to come along as the Seth Rollins of said podcast and curb stomp him into oblivion. That's what I think. Yes.
We need to hold a mutiny, and we need to overthrow this captain because there's been enough of this.
No, baby, this is my ship, and we're sailing right through. 4 times. That's what's going to happen.
We should add a pick belt, though. That should be the next Bald Monkeys investment, is actually get a belt so we can hold a title when you get the most picks right for a pick.
Yes.
And then what you have to, and we all live everywhere else, so we have to ship it to each other.
It's a good thing 3 of us work for Pitney Bowes, all right? We can use FDR.
This is why we need people to listen and subscribe and stuff, so that the little bit of money we can get goes to us shipping this pick belt all across the country.
No, but think about it. Let's do a crowd share to raise money for the belt, and then when you lose the belt, your penalty for losing the belt is the shipping fee to send it to the next guy.
There you go. That works.
I'm going to need a second job.
That works.
Oh, man. Well, before we get into Royal Rumble picks, which are going to be fun and probably, you know how we do. They used to be so fast we did picks, and now it takes forever. But before we get there, I want to talk about Worlds Collide, because we were at Worlds Collide last night, and let me tell you something. Worlds Collide. What a show.
Yeah, another great job by the NXT crew. I mean, we expect any less from them, to be honest. I mean, it's NXT, and I don't think they ever disappoint. We've always talked about how takeovers are amazing, and it's a situation where it's like we're waiting for the other shoe to drop and there to be a bad takeover, and it just hasn't happened. And I think Worlds Collide felt like kind of a takeover light. Like it wasn't anywhere near what the best takeovers were, but it definitely had, a fun night of a bunch of great matches. I know we've all kind of mentioned that it had a little bit of a house show feel to it, but it was that good house show feel, that fun, entertaining thing that you see at house shows that you really wish could get translated more into the tapings.
I think that's extra true too for the DIY versus Mustache Mountain. I mean, it was so much like a house show with the interactions between, wrestler to wrestler, especially when you got like Ciampa and Trent Seven in there, and they're like, doing the whole, no, this is how you twirl your mustache, and no, this is how you flex. Like it was very fun.
Yeah, I even tweeted out while we were there, to all of my 302 followers.
Hell yeah. Two of those. Thank you, Big Baby Jimmy, for getting you two of those.
Finally over 300. But I even tweeted out, I said, I'm loving the shtick before, in the beginning of that match, DIY and Mustache Mountain. It was fantastic.
Yeah. And may I say, Chuck, you're projecting very well into the mic.
Well, thank you. I always try to enunciate.
Yeah, it was fun. There was only really, I think, one match because Kaylee Ray and Mia Yim was a pre-show match. I think because it was a pre-show match, it actually held a lot of value and it ended up being a pretty decent match. The only match that wasn't really good was it was your girl, Nick.
I still love you, Tony, but that was not your best performance last night.
Yeah, Tony Storm versus Rhea Ripley, and really sad to say, the only thing that we really got out of that match was, a GIF that all the wrestling perverts of the world are going to just be spreading around Twitter till the end of time.
The ass slap heard round the world.
Yes, the ass slap heard round the world. Speaking of slaps heard round the world, though.
Oh my! It was Chop City last night.
I mean, what the chops were on the menu last night. Who wants to eat some chops?
I think Kyle O'Reilly wins the night though for taking the best worst chop of the night. That one where he just got folded in half by Walter, I think, was easily the hardest one we saw all night.
I mean, he was trying. It was like it seemed like Walter was like, every single chop, I'm going to try to just annihilate somebody, because that has become, and not even just from when he did it to Adam Cole. I mean, that was really the case when he fought Tyler Bate too. Like, it is, I do chops and they flipping hurt.
One thing I noticed about Walter too is you see him on TV, he kind of looks like just a little bit of a fat guy roaming around, but then you see him like in person. That is a mammoth of a human being. I think he's taller than 6'5", and he's got some bear paws. So I think the coolest part last night for me was seeing Walter live.
Yeah, I mean, we were on the side that they were taping from, so we were on where the cameras were, and we were 14 rows up in like the lower section, and there were only about 5 rows on the floor there, and you could still see how big this dude actually was. It was crazy.
He is a man, and that's an interesting thing, because I feel like that's part of Imperium's kind of thing. Like, these are wrestling men, and they take their craft seriously, and that shtick really, really works for me.
It was awesome. Fabian Eichner, shout out to him too. I did not know he was that athletic, but he pulled some pretty sick moves out of the bag last night.
All of them, man. And of course, how can we talk about that match and not talk about Wolf?
Yeah, he took a stiff shot to the chin from Bobby Fish, and he definitely was out on his knees. He wasn't on his feet at the time, and looked rough. But good job by everybody. I think, kind of rallying and figuring out how to have a match with one less guy. So they managed to figure it out, and they went through. There was definitely spots during the match where you could tell, hey, this was probably an area where Wolf was involved and they had to rework it. But beyond that, I mean, if you let go of that and go, listen, these guys are professionals and they're trying to make it work. Still a good match. And Wolf tweeted out late last night that he was okay, disappointed that he didn't get to take part in the match, and thanked Bobby Fish, thanked the ref for taking care of him. So everything's okay and everything worked out.
You know, the one thing that bothered me last night, and this is something that you, Christopher, did. You ruined the last match for me.
How did I ruin the last match for you, Jimmy?
Because we were tweeting out all night, and you decided that you were going to put the NXT versus NXT UK split on your last tweet, and it ruined it ruined it.
Yeah.
Because
we have this. Let me just point this out. Jimmy has a bit of a problem. If you were following our Twitters last night, you would notice that Jimmy doesn't know his left from his right. He doesn't know how to spell, and apparently he also doesn't know how to read, because that tweet actually came from the man to my right, and that.
Was that Chuck? Oh
yeah, baby! I was doing that all night. I was putting up the scores all night.
Hey, to be fair, I had a couple doubles last night at the arena.
Double. He doubled at the bar.
He had quad.
Yeah, we were lucky enough to, and this goes out to any of our listeners out there. If you go to wrestling events, well, this is a little advice from the Bald Monkeys. You can find cheaper tickets in the tucked away, obstructed view corners and play chicken with WWE. And sometimes you get lucky enough and you get moved into some pretty great seats. And last night, that was one of those times where we were tucked away in the corner in obstructed view behind the stage. We got there, we scan our tickets, and all of a sudden they tell us to go to a completely different section, which confused us. But we were like, okay. We get to that section, full bar, private concession, and 14 rows off the ring. So sometimes you play chicken and win, and we did last night, and we enjoyed our doubles at the bar and enjoyed some good wrestling. And
there were way less people on that side of the arena, because they only really had two sections on that side, and neither of them were even that full.
Yeah, let's be honest. The attendance for Worlds Collide was good, but it was good because they condensed it and blacked out a lot of seats. But yeah. I never have a problem with that. Mm-mm. I think they try to sell to the arenas that are too big. I think even AEW is doing it better than WWE with this, because they are focusing on the smaller arenas, selling out 10,000 or less seats. That makes sense. If you try to go over 10,000, that's where you have trouble selling tickets, and that's where the environment doesn't feel as good. You get filler people. You don't like tonight. A Royal Rumble is going to be a ton of people, and it's going to be cool. We've never done something like this as a group, but
it's going to be horrible though, too, isn't it?
I really think less people is more. Our most fun we've ever had at events was when we were at house shows, as close as we could get, with like a couple hundred people.
Or, I mean, even the last Rumble we went to was in Philly, and it's not, I mean, it's like the Wells Fargo Center. They're not trying to put it in like, you know, the link or something like that. Bank, yeah. So it's still a kind of reasonable, and it's in a very good wrestling town. No offense, Houston, you're not one of the top 10 wrestling towns in the country.
Well, let's be honest. The crowd was good last night.
Yeah.
But it was an NXT crowd, and you're going to see the difference. You know, even on TV, you'll see the difference today, because NXT fans, NXT crowds are good crowds. They travel well. I feel like they show up to events and they interact. You know, they were trying last night to even do some of the UK stuff. They didn't quite get it through, but they were trying to do some chants and have some fun. Again, Houston is nowhere near Philly, New York, Montreal, England. Nowhere near it. But at least it was a good crowd last night. Again, I'm not. I keep saying this. I don't think today's going to be as fun as it was as last night was. I think it's going to be fun because it's the Royal Rumble, and there's no better pay-per-view than the Royal Rumble. But last night was fun because it was NXT. It was great wrestling, great storytelling, and pretty good production.
Yeah.
Oh, WWE.
We definitely had to drink a couple of times last night with at least I know I can distinctly remember one production issue where all of a sudden, and who knows if it even came across on the network.
Yeah.
But all of a sudden, it was like they looped back to something else happening in the ring.
It's like a replay.
And it was so loud, and everyone was like, what the hell was that?
Even the guys in the ring, I think, on the apron turned around for a second. Like, so basically they replayed not the video, but the sound of like a chop or a suplex or something. Like, it was almost like a pumped
You heard somebody
sound.
say like Kyle or something like that.
Oh, I'm sure it was Fish yelling, Kyle, help me.
Help me, Kyle. And the other thing you're thinking about, though, is we were sitting at a bar watching SmackDown on Friday, and we're sitting there watching SmackDown, and all of a sudden it's picture within a picture, but it's the exact same thing. Picture within a picture. Yep. And we all look at each other and we like grab our drinks and we're like, drink production. It's so rare. It's so rare that you see that in WWE, but it's refreshing because I don't want to, we don't want to sit there and beat up AEW all the time for production. Now, rightfully so, because they've got a lot of production issues, but we don't want to beat them up all the time and not serve them a little justice on the other side for WWE. And yeah, WWE, you messed up production. We had to take a drink because of you.
I like drinking, so that's okay with me.
Yeah. I just drink through it.
Well, the problem was, I think, if going to AEW, if you were playing our drinking game during the AEW Jericho Cruise, you're drunk. You're still drunk today because the amount of production issues that boat caused them to have was kind of rough. And we had a discussion with somebody who was actually on the cruise, and it sounds like it's a fun time. Sounds like everybody really is boozed up and enjoying themselves. It's over 2,000 people on a boat, basically just loving wrestling and having a good time. But when you watch it on TV and you can't even hear the commentators talking because they have to bleep out all of the cussing that's going on, it's unwatchable.
It's an artificial production issue, right?
Yeah, but I couldn't watch it. Like, I literally had to turn it off this week and just not watch AEW for portions of matches because it was like I can't deal with the crowd being bleeped out and having this weird hiccup going on the entire time with the commentators.
Do you think that's just because the crowd was so close to where the commentators were that there was no way to filter out the crowd from their mics?
But isn't there a better way to do that? Like, haven't there been times where WWE lets the crowd be there, but lets the commentators record from the back or re-record and redub over? Like, there's been plenty of times where they end up like recording something and dealing with it like back in the studios in Stamford. Like they'll record over stuff in Stamford and do it that way.
And they pre-recorded this and then sent it in and everything. So they could have, kind of fixed it.
It depends on the timing too.
Doing it next year. Doing it next year. AEW, because you listen to us just like WWE listens to us. Yep. You should probably do the Jericho Cruise. Have a good time. I get that.
Don't do it live.
Don't do the commentating live. Let the commentators go dub over it and record. Like, I don't need to hear Shivani anyway. Don't even have Shivani there. Just tell him to go on vacation someplace else. Or leave him on the island. That's fine too.
Don't even do the show live either. I mean, that if that show was live as it was on the boat happening.
Well, it wasn't it? Wasn't it
No,
recorded?
it was taped. But
yeah.
I mean, the kid that we talked to yesterday said there were rumors that they were going to do it live next year. AEW, don't do it.
Terrible idea.
Unless you have the commentators.
Unless it's a pay-per-view.
Wow.
Unless it's a pay-per-view and it doesn't matter if they sit there and yell obscenities the whole time.
True. But if you need to have the commentators somewhere else so that you don't pick up on all the stuff that the crowd is saying in that such a small space.
As much as the crowd adds to how good something is when you're watching it, they can also subtract when they're not loud, not into it, or yelling obscenities and ruining the production drink of what we're watching. And it's tough to watch. It's almost impossible to watch it that.
Just put it on a pay-per-view and let them say whatever they damn well please, and there you go. All your problems are solved.
I'm okay with that.
It's not that crowd was ECW crowd more with all the obscenities.
The caveat is make sure Shivani stays on the island. Like, that is the major point in this whole conversation.
I'm disappointed you guys didn't get the put my butts in seats reference or didn't even give me a courtesy laugh, so screw you guys.
Oh, so anything else? Anything else from the week that you guys want to gripe about or praise before we start rolling into these Rumble picks? Because I have a feeling once we talk about like our picks for the Rumble, it's going to spawn off into a big conversation about each Rumble.
Yeah, it always does. I would like to just make a point that I still dislike what WWE has been doing with announcing all the people that are in this Rumble. We've had side conversations about it, but they did it again on SmackDown where they announced 2 more people with Morrison and Miz. They must have a huge, Chuck, stop making noises. They must have a huge
Sorry,
like a
totally
huge
forgot.
surprise. He's sitting here making like,
Oh God!
oh, this is why we love our podcast. No editing.
No editing.
So
Nope.
no, like I don't like what WWE is doing unless they have this amazing huge surprise plan for today. And even if they have an amazing huge surprise, short of it being resurrecting someone from the dead, like I don't understand how it could be big enough that it's just one surprise, like one iota of a surprise. I'll let Jimmy take the credit for his idea later on today, or on the taping, but it's just a situation where I think WWE needs to back off telling us who's going to be in the Rumble because I think it's ruined it.
I don't know, they're more clever than they think they are. They're trolling
us.
Yeah, they're
and I'm
trolling
okay with
us.
that.
Yeah, that's fine. That's what I think it has to be because it's like you don't just announce every single person in the Rumble. That just doesn't make sense. And if you do that, it's to get the fanboys riled up, get them really annoyed, and then you pay them off. And you either pay them off with my theory or that you pay them off with your theory, and we're going to get to both of those.
Right, but here's the thing. You have ruined some of the shows leading up to Royal Rumble because instead of having stories that you built into the shows leading up to the Royal Rumble, you just had people announcing they were in the Royal Rumble. Instead of building a story, and I hate this story, but still it's a story, Rusev and Lashley building a storyline going into the Rumble and then having a moment in the Rumble. You are not having those with anybody. You know, Aleister Black and Buddy Murphy are the only ones I think I could point to that have a really good story going on.
Drew, Orton, AJ. I mean, they've done a little bit of groundwork for that stuff.
Little bit, right? Little bit of groundwork. Like, they have spent more time announcing people being in the Rumble, giving more TV time to that. Promos of I'm going to win the Rumble than promos of guys feuding with other people or having backstage fights with other people.
And the other thing is how do we have 26 or so of the 30 men announced, and we literally have like 6 of the women?
But that's fine.
Like,
I mean, that's fine. I think that's fine for the women's side. I mean,
well, it's interesting because it's two different approaches that they're using.
Yeah,
I think
which
that's
is
the point,
very
right?
odd.
which is why it's a giant flippin' troll.
I promise, listeners, before we get to the Rumble today, I'm going to get some drinks in these guys. I'm going to get some burgers in these guys, and they're going to be a lot more positive than they've been on this podcast so far. They're going to have fun today. They're going to practice their counting from 10 to 1, and they're going to have a good time.
Listen, I have to be negative about something real quick, and I have to be negative about the fact that he thinks I'm so negative all the goddamn time.
That's a double negative.
I know. It's positive. See what I did there?
Oh, and by the way, as of now at 10:26 Central Time, since we are in Yeehaw, Texas, there has only been 7 women announced for the Women's Royal Rumble match tonight.
Hey, the stars at night are big and bright, deep in the heart of Texas.
Meanwhile, people in the hotel here are going, what the hell is going on at the end of that hallway?
There's a reason they tucked us in the corner.
The housekeeping outside the door is like, I don't think they need towels, but they need help.
No. You didn't hear the housekeeper go, tap, 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 deep in the heart of Texas. So let's get into it. Chuck, you got these matches written down?
I do, of course.
Oh, here we go, boys. Here we go. Who's going to be the one? Is anybody going to take down Captain Chuckles? Ooh.
Probably.
Oh, I want it. I want to break them.
I'm gonna win it. I'm gonna be like when Maven eliminated the Undertaker, and then Chuck's gonna slam my head through a popcorn machine later at the Rumble.
Accurate.
What I really wanted to happen, just in case, Nick had to take about 17,000 flights to get from where he was to Houston yesterday. And this guy fell asleep in the car last night after we got out of Worlds Collide. And I said to Jimmy, you better chop the shit out of his chest right now. But he wouldn't. And, whatever. That's why I'm a bad guy. And that's why Jimmy's a good guy, apparently.
I am definitely a face, and you are a baby heel, right?
That is right.
No, you're not a baby heel. You know why? Because it's the worst term ever in the history of wrestling. Baby heel might be the worst. Although I will say this. I was looking through Chuck's followers the other day because he has so few of them.
300.
Yeah. And there's actually a girl who follows him who's like one of the very first things it says is like baby heel. Like that's how she describes herself, as a baby heel.
Wait, are you serious?
I'm
awesome.
100% positive. I saw it yesterday.
She's our smartest
I gotta
listener.
check that out.
Yeah. So
Oh, my.
kudos to one of your followers for literally being listed as a baby heel. I will say for you who have listed yourself as a baby heel, hey, good terminology for yourself. For this podcast, no. Bad terminology. No baby heels ever, ever, ever. And Chris is going to back me up all the way on this.
100%. That is not a thing.
It is definitely a thing.
I'm tweeting it right now. It's not a thing.
Faced heel and healed face are terrible terms.
It's a
Baby
term
heel
that
is the best.
the terms make sense though. It's not about having a term that's a catch-all for every single one of these people. It's a faced heel is a heel that the crowd is facing. So the crowd is saying, "Nope, you're a face, but there's still a bad guy in the story."
Aren't you kind of always facing the wrestlers?
No, not at all. Is Baron Corbin a faced heel, or is he a heel?
Listen, get over it. Baby heel is going to blow up. All of a sudden, everyone's going to be using the term, and you're going to be like, shit, I should have jumped.
You know what, Chuckles? I hope you enjoy wearing your Baron Corbin shirt today. That's all I got to say.
King Corbin!
King bend the knee!
Chuck, even though you wanted me chopped in my sleep last night, I'm still on your side on this, so remember that. I'm very forgiving.
I will.
Listen, don't degrade yourself by bending down to Chuckles and thinking that, man, maybe I won't get chopped in the chest later by Chuck if I just agree with him.
3 times my size. It's like Big Show versus Mysterio back in the day, all right? I'm giving up a lot of weight.
All right, Chuckles, you are our captain. Lead us off, brother.
We'll start off with what's the pre-show match? Is that Shorty G and Sheamus?
Probably.
Okay, so we'll start off with that match, and you know what?
What order are we in? What's our order?
Since he hasn't been on for a while, we're gonna let Nick go first. We will have Tiro go second, and then we will have Jimmy go third, and I'll go fourth, so I can listen to all of you very smart people, and then totally rip out your picks and use them as mine, so I tie again and continue on winning.
Wait a second. You keep going before everybody, and you keep winning. Did you not realize that that's part of the how you've been doing it?
He's already decided. We're going to go with it.
because I'm not going to say I'm not smart with wrestling picks, but I overanalyze, and I'm like, I give WWE way too much credit for building a good story, and that's why I screw up all of my picks.
Yeah, and definitely sometimes I get pulled into some of your guys' crazy theories, and all of a sudden I'm like, no, I'm going to switch it, and then we're both wrong, and I'm like,
yeah.
Anyway, Nick, you're first up. We got Shorty G versus Sheamus. Who you got?
Well, I appreciate the Southern hospitality letting me go first. I'm going to go with Sheamus. I think this match is probably going to be one of the worst of the night. I don't really have a reason, but there's 2 of them, and I picked one, so that's what I'm going with.
There you go.
This is like, what's the point of this match? I don't. I mean, other than putting over Sheamus coming back and being strong, I still think there's an opportunity here to make Shorty G lose his mind and make him think he's Kurt Angle.
After he gets a bro kick.
After, let him take a bro kick and literally not know who he come back in Kurt Angle gear and just think he's Kurt Angle. That's my only goal right now for picking this. So I think Sheamus wins. Shorty G gets knocked out cold, wakes up, thinks he's Kurt Angle, and moves on as the real son of Kurt Angle.
See, there's this weird thing where, like, I'll take your side with that story when it's salvaging the nothingness that is going on with the character, but I still hate that story. Like, to my core, like, we don't need to have the Kurt Angle son thing going.
But he thinks he's his son because he got kicked in the head. It's amazing. It's genius. I've just got to say that. It's genius.
Can you please pat yourself on the back and clap really loud like DIY did last night? There you go. Well done. Yeah, I mean, I think general pick logic here is, why are you bringing Sheamus back just to have him lose? You're bringing him back to make him look strong, so you have him, basically annihilate, unless you decide to have the match go long and create Shorty G as being kind of a redemptive figure who's doing the whole comeback kid thing, which is again, WWE is not clever enough to be doing that, so it's definitely Sheamus.
Yeah, I agree. I think Shorty G is going to come out of the gate fast and try to get the jump on Sheamus, and all of a sudden at one point Sheamus is just going to turn it on and clock him with a clothesline, hit him with the bro kick, and it's going to be night. Have fun in Houston. We'll see you later, Shorty G. So we got four for Sheamus, so don't let us down. Next one, let's go to Andrade versus Humberto Carrillo, who should come out in that mask. I'm just saying. I hate seeing this guy's dimples.
I'm a big fan of dimples, Chuck, so you need to stop the dimple slander. For this match, first off, I think Andrade is a special talent. I hope they kind of give him the push he was getting in NXT with Zelina Vega. He's got the perfect mouthpiece. He's incredible in the ring. I think he could get a real push in 2020. I think Andrade retains here. He had that big win over Mysterio to get the belt, and I think they're going to let this reign go a little bit longer.
Yeah, it's a situation where it's like bringing Humberto back in this quickly to have a title match is kind of alarming, because it's, if you bring him in and he loses this match, what are you doing with Humberto other than just crushing him again and burying him again? I still think there's a situation where they were thinking about splitting up Andrade and Zelina, and I thought it would have been interesting for Zelina to kind of cross the lines and just go with Humberto, because he needs a mouthpiece, because he can't speak. He can just smile and show his dimples. And I don't know, man. Like, I want to pick Andrade, but I'm worried about this because it just doesn't make logical sense for have Humberto to eat another pin. So unless it's a DQ, which obviously I hate when it comes to pay-per-views, I'm going to have to go on Andrade just because I think it makes more sense to have him hold the belt. But I'm really on the fence and think Humberto can pull this one out. Unfortunately, it might be a DQ match. So I'm gonna pick, for the sake of trying to beat Chuck, Andrade. But listeners know that I'm torn about it, and I really think Humberto's got a shot in this match.
Yeah, I'm with you. The interesting thing about this match is that on paper, it looks like it could very well be match of the night, but the fact that they're not going to give it enough time is why it won't be match of the night. I mean, these two guys can definitely put on one heck of a match. I'm going to lean the way that you didn't lean, because I agree. I believe that the only thing that really makes sense is that we are taking Humberto Carrillo and we are putting him in a higher position, and we are eventually going to have Andrade turn on Selena Vega and go with Humberto Carrillo. And while that may not happen 100% tonight, the belt flips over, as does the attitude, and that is what we're getting to. Because in regards to Andrade, I mean, we could have Andrade, run with Charlotte Flair for all that, if they really wanted to. I mean, they're both always play a really good bad guy, so why not have them run together? If you ever need a mouthpiece for Andrade, who is established, so doesn't always need a mouthpiece at this moment, you could always just use Charlotte Flair.
His wife.
So yeah. So in regards to Selena Vega, like she is desperately needed for Humberto Carrillo because the guy cannot talk at all. There's just hasn't been any good promos that Dimples has been a part of. I'm not hating on the Dimples. It's just easy to call him Dimples. It's just easy to call him Dimples. So I'm gonna go with Humberto Carrillo here.
Yeah, it's a really interesting match. Just with how quick it came about, just pretty much, I think, within this last week. I do think I agree with all of you guys so far. I mean, why have Carrillo come back if you're just going to bury him in his first match? Which is why I'm not going to pick either one, and I'm actually going to pick a DQ. And the DQ win is going to go to Carrillo because I think Selena Vega is finally going to get caught doing something on the outside, and the ref is going to see it, and he's going to DQ Andrade. Andrade keeps the belt, but Carrillo gets the win by DQ because of something that Zelina Vega does. And this kind of, like what you guys just said, it's going to lead to a little bit of heat that goes on between, Andrade and Zelina, and, kind of keeps this moving on without having Carrillo get squashed in his first match back, without having the belt get transferred to anybody. So, hey, this could be the pick that topples me this time, but I'm going DQ in favor of Dimples.
That's always scary when you do those specific picks.
I know. But I had been thinking that since earlier in the week, actually, that it's not going to come down to a final pin, that something is going to happen. So I'm sticking with it. That's what I'm doing. Okay.
Damn notifications on my computer making noises. What the hell?
God. Dude, we need a better producer. So if anybody's out there,
like,
Houston, if you want to come down,
Jimmy, get better at production. Drink.
Yes. Okay. Next up, we're gonna go to our SmackDown Women's Championship match. Are we even able to call it the Women's Championship anymore? Like
SmackDown Championship match.
What is it? SmackDown.
Now, are they only doing that with NXT, or are they doing that with everything?
Who knows? But we have the champion Bayley going up against the challenger Lacey Evans. We have the women's right against the Bayley to Belly. Who's gonna win, Nick?
I actually I had my picks written down on my phone. That's what I was doing at the airport yesterday on my 35-hour trip over here. But I just switched it to Bayley. I had Lacey Evans originally, but I think Bayley's going to retain here. I think that sets up for a better story with Sasha Banks down the line, because eventually I think they're going to go one-on-one for that title. So I think this makes more sense for Bayley to win. But I do know how much Vince McMahon loves his blondes, his Sables, his Trish Stratuses, his Lacey Evans. So I thought she was going to win, but I think Bayley wins. I think they do this Bayley Banks payoff that we've kind of been waiting like a year and a half for now at some point here in the next couple months.
Yeah, spoiler alert, this is definitely a pick that I'm making specific to another pick later on. But Bayley's winning this match. It just makes sense. Keep the title on her.
I just got the spoiler. Took me a second to get it, but I got it.
just randomly just go, oh.
Ow. Ow. I got it.
I'm picking Bailey though.
Yeah, man. How disappointed am I going to be if Lacey Evans wins this? Like, no offense, Lacey Evans. Listen.
Need a Lacey Evans shirt at the end of this one.
Let me talk about this just for a second, because Lacey Evans, it's not your fault. It's the WWE's fault. When you were a hardcore heel and they didn't even transition you, they just immediately one episode suddenly your face. What? Huh? Confusing. And I haven't been able to really let that go. And I've been struggling with it. And going into this match, like I think I've finally come to terms with it. But that being said, I'm still going to pick Bailey because WWE, you've kind of ruined Lacey Evans a little bit, and you need to repair her before I'm going to back her. So I'm going to go with Bailey. I think it's better story long term. I don't think, in regards, there's many ways that you can set up this really great match between Bailey and Sasha. So I agree with you, Nick, and let's push to that, because I think that's a very good WrestleMania match.
Yeah, and I'm going with the quadfecta here and picking Bailey. And it doesn't make sense. I mean, I talked about it a little bit in the car ride back last night from Worlds Collide. We were talking about a whole bunch of different things, but Lacey Evans has just been an odd pairing, I feel, for some people, in my opinion. And Bailey's just going to win this. And I pretty much agree with you guys that it's leading to something much bigger at WrestleMania with her and Sasha. Even though they're best friends now, we know in wrestling that it doesn't always last that long. So Bailey for me again.
How many times have Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn been best friends?
Yeah. Right? Oh, and now to my favorite match. It's Roman Reigns versus the King.
King Corbin.
Can't wait for this match. Nick.
My biggest problem with this match is there's no point to it in regards to the Royal Rumble. If this was a match like in 2003, which, fun fact, is one of my more favorite Royal Rumbles, where it's like the winner of this match gains entry into the Royal Rumble and the loser doesn't, I would enjoy this match. I think it would make sense, and I think it would help the story a lot more of Roman Reigns and Baron Corbin, like it did with Brock Lesnar and the Big Show, because Big Show was just a champion like 2 months before when he faced Brock Lesnar at the Royal Rumble and didn't get into the match. Lesnar ends up winning, so I think that makes it fun. For this match, I think it's just a waste. You could have done this at a different pay-per-view where there weren't already going to be in the Royal Rumble. I'm going to go with King Corbin as the winner, because I think it'll help Roman Reigns' underdog kind of push later on the night when he has a strong Rumble showing. I think Corbin gets the win here with some interference from one of his homeboys.
And by the way, this is a Falls Count Anywhere match, so
who cares?
Oh God, you just ruined so many things for me, Nick. Ugh.
All right. But Corbin's my pick, if that wasn't clear, and I'm not looking forward to this one.
This is interesting because you bring up a couple of points that made me just think about it. And the idea right now is you have a match before the Royal Rumble. So you have two guys that are in the Rumble that have to have a match prior to it. So whatever happens in that match essentially is quote unquote affecting them coming into the Rumble match. So with that being said, in a Falls Count Anywhere match, and if we've noticed, they've been burying people, like physically burying people under stuff in these matches that they've been having. So logic says one guy may not be able to actually get into the Rumble. He may not actually be able to perform and get into the Rumble, which might be one of the quote unquote surprises that's coming for the Rumble. Maybe a guy who says he's going to be in the Rumble, a Baron Corbin or a Roman Reigns or both, aren't able to continue and aren't able to be in the Rumble. So I'm going to go with something interesting. It's going to be one of those bonus point situations that we talk about. We're going to go with Roman Reigns winning this match. And I think he literally puts Baron Corbin on the quote-unquote shelf and buries him somehow or incapacitates him to the point where he cannot continue and he cannot get into the Rumble match. And that brings back another wrestler or brings a surprise entrant into the Rumble. Otherwise, I don't care about this match. That's the only reason I'm picking it this way, because otherwise this match, to your point, Nick, is just unnecessary and uninteresting. So I'm going to pick the big dog because it just seems like he needs to win this match because, spoiler alert, I'm not picking him for the Royal Rumble winner.
See, but the interesting thing about picking Roman Reigns for this match, especially with what he brings up, him being like maybe Corbin being incapacitated and then Roman's being limited, is that it makes Roman Reigns a more sympathetic figure when he actually wins the whole damn thing. I hate that, though. That's why I was going, ugh, why? So that means I'm going to also go specific because I'm with you. I like the idea of like we've announced so many people and then we have an out to create more buzz. And the way that we do that is nobody wins the match. They both, you know.
No wonder Chuck wins every week.
They're both incapacitated. They're both incapacitated.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't I don't think you can have a count out in a false count anywhere match, but you can just have an ending to the match. They can both go so far over the edge that both of them are just done and it just doesn't end. I think some fans might boo at that, but I think if you do it well, it can be good. Now have a history of not doing that well. That's the problem. But I'm going to pick it that way because I hate the idea of this match so much. Like so I'm struggling between picking that or just picking Corbin straight up. Mm-hmm. But like having Roman Reigns win this match and then having him come into the Rumble later and possibly win it as that sympathetic figure is just that's not what's best for business, WWE. Don't even think about it. Don't do it. It's just not good. So I'm going to say they both totally incapacitate each other. It's a no finish. And that helps out the Royal Rumble.
Okay. I thoroughly hate this match.
No, you don't. You love King Corbin, I thought.
I don't like either wrestler for some of the same but different reasons. I, however, am going to pick the person that I unfortunately have a t-shirt of.
Oh, I was going with the hometown.
Oh, yeah.
And I am going for King Corbin to beat Roman Reigns today. It's so crazy because I agree with what Chris said, and I can see that point of view. And I agree with what Jimmy said, and I can see that point of view. But I think King Corbin kind of keeps on rolling here and gets the win over Reigns tonight. I agree with both of you guys, and I hope with both of you guys that Roman Reigns does not win the Royal Rumble. And again, spoiler alert, I am not picking Roman Reigns to win the Royal Rumble either. But I think Corbin gets the win in this match tonight. So that's all I got to say about that crappy ass match. Anyway.
And the knee.
No, thank you. Let's see. Next one, we're going for the Women's Raw Championship. Gender female championship, whatever you want to call it. We got Becky Lynch, the champion, versus one half of the Kabuki Warriors, Asuka.
All right. Asuka makes a lot of sense from a storyline perspective. I think it would be great to put the belt back on her. She's a fantastic wrestler, and I think you can do more with that. But if there's anything I've learned in the last, 15 months of WWE writing, we're pushing Becky Lynch to the moon. Every other wrestler be damned. So I think Becky Lynch retains here, and I think they have a bigger story for her down the line. So I'm going to go Lynch to retain her Raw Women's title.
Forget the asterisks, though. Don't forget the asterisks.
What's that?
You can still push her without her being the champ. You can push her to the moon without her being the champ.
Not with this writing, you can't. So, picking Lynch.
Yeah, so this is the dilemma, right? Like dilemma. What Jimmy said, do you risk pushing her, and how do you push her without the belt? And I'm gonna just put this out there. I don't think I'm gonna win picks this week because I am not picking with what is probably gonna happen. I'm picking with what I think would be good if it happened. I think it'd be interesting. I think I'd enjoy it. I think the crowd would enjoy it. I think it would help the WWE writing and production and everything and all those words that make you drink.
He's doing a big baby Jimmy.
So here's what I'm thinking could happen, and it'd be interesting if it happened. I think you put the belt on Asuka. I think Asuka beats Becky Lynch. I think they have a good match. I think Asuka needs to tap Becky Lynch just like she did last year. And Becky Lynch taps out and loses her belt, and now she is Becky No Belts and takes that into the Royal Rumble. And I will get to the rest of my story at that point. But
yeah,
here we are with Asuka winning the championship and being Asuka 2 belts. So I'm going to put Asuka over and pick Asuka in this match.
Do you think, because Brock has a belt, do you think they'd let Becky Lynch enter the Rumble even though she has a belt? I think.
But for what purpose? I guess what's the end game if that's the case. So the answer is yes.
So here's the thing, right? I'm going to twist your story because we've talked about this a lot, so I know exactly what direction you're going in.
Yeah.
And for me, I'm going to say that Becky Lynch is going to win. And man, I was going to pick Asuka all flipping week long. I was going to pick Asuka. And your little speech just made me go, you know what? Brock's in the Rumble. Why can't Becky Lynch be in the Rumble? Why can't she be like, I'm the most dominant woman. I just beat Asuka. I'm going after my second belt. But she's not going to quite get there. And we'll get to that later.
So you got Becky Lynch.
I got Becky Lynch.
So, oh man.
We're trying to make it so much more interesting than it's actually going to be.
I know. It's going to be so fucking boring. But I will say this. You know what has been entertaining? We're making it so hard for Chuck. He's like dying right now.
Well, I mean, we talked about it last night after Worlds Collide and what my opinion was on who's going to win this match and what I think could happen. And that was Asuka winning tonight, being Asuka 2 belts, and then sometime this week, whether it be on Monday or Wednesday or Friday, have the Kabuki Warriors lose the tag titles, and and then she's just Asuka 1 belt, just the women's champion. And as much as in my heart of hearts I want that to happen, I also think about the flip side of, well, what is that going to do to Kairi Sane? Like, you're trying to get her, you're trying to get her to stay, first of all, with WWE. She needs a push. She is a very good wrestler, very talented. We've talked numerous times about how they destroy tag teams in WWE, and I don't even remember, and somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but when was the last time we even saw like a women's tag team match for the championship?
Tea Time versus the Kabuki Warriors probably about a month ago.
So
yeah, it's like on a one-off Raw.
WWE, you're why even have the belts if it's like the reverse Brock Lesnar thing. You have the belts, you have the people who are showing up on the shows every week and they're never defending them. But you're putting 2 singles competitors as a tag team and then now they're going back to singles matches. So I really hope Asuka wins. However, I am going with Becky Lynch because I think there's something bigger on the way of how she loses that belt coming up at some point. So my pick is against what I truly feel is going to be Becky Lynch, because I think that's what WWE is going to do.
Do you think that they're above copying a men's story for the women's story for Asuka and Kairi Sane? So you have Asuka win the championship, and then almost immediately you have Kairi Sane, even though they're still tag team partners, turn.
No, they're not against it at all. They've proven that they will do the same exact story, whether it men, women, brand. They'll repeat stories all the time.
I don't think
we had the Riot Squad, and we had what are they called? The Paige and Mandy and Sonya. What was their name? I forgot what their faction name was. But that
Evolution or Revolution or something like that.
I don't even remember what it was called.
Yeah, I don't know.
But they had two factions of women come in on two separate brands, and it was exactly the same story. So yes, they will totally copy something if they can.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Absolution.
Absolution.
Oh, there you go.
There you go.
Quick finger Nick over here. He looked it up.
Ooh, that's a rough nickname.
Yeah. Quick finger Nick.
Yikes.
I mean, he's definitely better at figuring out the answer than his brother is, because Chris, I mean, yeah, you remember the All right.
Hey, it happens to everybody.
It does. Moving right along.
Next match, which I hope will not be under the red light, is going to be a strap match between The Fiend and champion Bray Wyatt and Daniel Bryan.
I got some bad news for you, long lost member of ZZ Top. It's going to be under that red light, and The Fiend is going to retain because it just doesn't make sense to put the belt on Bryan right now. So you're going to get an awkward red light match, and this one, you guys are sucking me down into your negativity, but I think this is going to be another match where we're going to be like, man, this is kind of stupid, and The Fiend's going to retain. And like you said with Becky Lynch, Chuck, I think when he does eventually drop his title, it's going to be bigger than just like a match like this.
So you're absolutely right. And here's the issue with this match. Where they position this match, if they position it after one of the Rumbles, this could be the P-break match of the night. This could be the match that gets, basically nobody watching or nobody into, which we've seen in the past at Royal Rumbles. That match that follows one of the Rumbles, all the life is sucked out of the crowd because he just went through a Royal Rumble.
Bailey and Evans could be that match.
There's a couple of matches that it could be that all the life could be sucked out of the crowd. Yeah. I don't see a situation where The Fiend loses this match. It doesn't make sense. There could be something interesting where The Fiend, essentially, because he's strapped to Daniel Bryan, is on the cusp of losing, and he disappears. The lights go out, and you just have him not there at the other end of the strap anymore. That could be interesting. But that being said, I'm reaching for something interesting in this match other than Daniel Bryan just losing. So I'm picking The Fiend. Hopefully they do something interesting with it. I'm upset that they're doing the stupid red light thing again. It's going to be interesting how they do that in such a big arena. It's going to be a pretty powerful freaking red light if it is. So we'll see how it works out. And unfortunately, The Fiend's going to win.
I wonder if the fact that the location that it's at is the reason that they don't use the red light. I mean, I could definitely see that. I don't know what to say. What the hell is the purpose of the strap match other than how many ways can we have The Fiend no sell? Like when this week he's gonna no sell because we're gonna drop a truck on him and he's gonna just lift the truck off and go,
maybe we can
I'm still here. Yeah, maybe, Bobby Lashley. Get Bobby Lashley to drop the Titanic on him. And it's like, we're good now.
There we go.
The Fiend's going to win. You know what? I've grown to dislike The Fiend. I'm sorry. And again, it's not because of him. I think he's a cool character. But what were you thinking when you put the title on him? You were always going to ruin him. Yeah. So here we are. The Fiend versus Daniel Bryan. I don't know. Will he be the person who comes closest to beating the Fiend? They'll try to play it up that way. But, if it's not the Demon taking down the Fiend, then, what, I don't know. It doesn't make any damn sense. So.
Yeah, it's, I agree with you guys. I love the Fiend character. And as I've said, and you guys have said over the past, 6 months that we've had the Fiend and everything, WWE quickly and very easily in a number of different ways. It's sad because it really could have been so much better than what it has turned out to be. The Fiend wins this match. I don't see Daniel Bryan winning. It will be interesting with them strapped together. I disagree with Chris's kind of thought of having him disappear because of the venue. We're in such a big place that, like, how do you get all of the light out of such a huge stadium that you're not going to see something like that? I don't think you can. I'm hoping what Jimmy said is right, again, because of the venue, that there is no red light. That would be amazing. But yeah, the Fiend is going to win. Daniel Bryan is going to be feeling sad, and he's going to take his biodegradable shirt with him and have a nice day in Houston.
Where's that belt? I want that belt so bad. I know Tira wants that belt too.
I want
It is
that
a very
belt
cool belt.
Best belt in a long time. Well, next to the new Cruiserweight belt.
Ah, yeah. Pretty.
Okay, so we will talk about the Women Royal Rumble match right now.
Before we get into the Rumbles, too, the only thing I want to say is when we get to the Men's Royal Rumble, I think we need to pick it at face value and then pick it the way that we think it's going to go. If you have a different opinion of the way that it's going to go, so since we don't know the surprises that they might have in store, I think we need to pick it at face value as it being just a typical Rumble. But I do know that a couple of us don't think it's going to be a typical Rumble. And so I would like to do that after we pick it at face value.
Okay.
All right.
So we'll go with the women first. 30 female superstars battling for a chance at WrestleMania to go up against whichever champion they want, whoever that would be at the time. So far, like I said earlier, only 7 at this point in time. It is 11:05 Central Time in Yeehaw, Houston, Texas. And we still only have 7. We got Charlotte Flair, Natalya, Alexa Bliss, Nikki Cross, Sarah Logan, Carmella, and Dana Brooke are the only ones that have been announced so far. The other 23, who flippin' knows? We'll see what happens. Hopefully there isn't some kid spitting behind me on my neck when
he might die.
Comes out. But Nick, in your crystal ball or your little 8-ball that you shake up and see who's going to win this match.
Before he goes, I was just gonna say.
Why do you always have to freaking interrupt, man?
What? I'm not interrupting him. In fact, I looked at him and I said, "Hey, can I go before you?" And he said, "Yes." So it's not an interruption, Chuckles. I just want to do, because you complain about going before or after people. I hate that Chris gets to go before me, picking this damn match. Okay, Nick, go ahead.
And that was Jimmy's TED Talk. So I'm going to go with a pick here that it just almost seems too obvious to happen, but that's just the way WWE does it. I'm going to pick Charlotte Flair. One thing I'm certain of, that at the end of her career, she's going to have every accolade that any women wrestler could possibly ever have, and she's earned it. She's that damn good. But I think she's going to win this Royal Rumble match. I think We are going to see a return tonight from Ronda Rousey, but I think Charlotte ends up eliminating her. And I think they have a little bit of a story. And I think WWE learns from last year where maybe, you don't keep the heat of Becky showing up every week for 2.5 months and just completely, kill all that momentum she had. I think you get a little Charlotte Ronda story where Charlotte eliminates Rousey in the Royal Rumble and then they have a match down the road. So I'm going to go with the Queen winning the Women's Royal Rumble here in Houston.
That's a good, strong pick. I mean, it makes a lot of sense. I mean, I think we're all thinking it. This is obviously Lana's Royal Rumble to win. I mean, she's totally like the number one female right now. She's completely over. Everybody loves the storyline. I mean, she would tell you right now that she's the obvious pick for them. I say that out loud, and we're all thinking it. Holy crap, they could totally do that because they love that storyline so much, or Vince does at least. But I am 100% not picking that. So there's some layers to this. So let's walk through it.
If we had a sound bite there, we'd put applause in. But we haven't figured that part out yet.
So I'm picking Sasha Banks to win the Royal Rumble. And there's layers to this where I talked about Asuka beating Becky Lynch. So now Becky Lynch has no belt. So obviously she needs a shot at a title. So Becky Lynch has to get into the Royal Rumble. So now she's in the Royal Rumble. However she fights her way in. Obviously they haven't announced a bunch of people. So she can easily just say, I'm in the Royal Rumble. That's what everybody else does, right? I'm declaring. So she gets into the Royal Rumble. She starts wreaking havoc with whoever, eliminating some people. And one of two people make the most sense for her to have a moment with. Obviously, Shayna Baszler would be a good one, but I think this is the moment for Ronda Rousey to return as essentially, number 29, number 30, whatever it might be, for them to have a face-off in the ring. All the time, Sasha Banks kind of just laying in the corner, hiding somewhere. They've always had these moments where a person goes out of the ring but doesn't get eliminated. And Sasha is the perfect heel right now where she can do that, hide for a while, let Becky and Ronda have their moment in the ring together, and then either eliminate both of them or find a moment where one of them eliminates the other and then dump the other one over the ring and be the winner. So some scenario where you see Sasha Banks laying in the weeds, waiting for them to have their moment by the ropes and then dumping them both over the top rope, or maybe dumping Ronda over after she's already dumped over Becky Lynch. I see that as the most likely scenario. That way, Sasha Banks now is the winner of the Royal Rumble. Sasha Banks now goes on to take on her best friend that she always chooses, Bayley, at WrestleMania. So now you have Bayley versus Sasha at WrestleMania. And then you can mix in Ronda versus Becky, which, to Jimmy's point, you don't need the title on that match. There's enough story there that they can just have a really good match. And then you build Charlotte, to Nick's point, against Asuka at WrestleMania. Now you have 3 WrestleMania matches, singles matches for the women, that's actually pretty good and actually pretty interesting. And you haven't even mixed in Shayna Baszler, which I think might actually stay on NXT right now. So long-winded pick for Sasha, but there's a lot of layers to it, like there is to Jimmy. There's a lot of layers. And
oh my gosh,
I'm going to pick Sasha Banks.
This guy with his layers jokes. He thinks he's so funny. He thinks he's so funny all the time. In my head, I guess I forgot that he was picking Sasha. I'd worked that out, and then for whatever reason, I mean, so I don't agree. I don't agree.
We've had a lot of discussions this week.
But
bouncing around, right?
Yeah. The problem is that I kind of have 2 picks, and it's kind of based on positioning. I mean, because I think it's to the same end, but it depends on positioning. So
Jimmy, hold on. Just before you go on, I have to interject here for a second.
Okay.
Since WWE sucks and they can't update either their website or anything else, because the latest time that they put up a women's thing about the Royal Rumble and even the men's, it seems as if also Mandy Rose has been announced to be in the women's Royal Rumble. Just wanted to get that in there.
Okay. That's interesting. Mandy Rose. That's an interesting pick.
I love her. She's very pretty.
Oh my God, you and your blondes.
She's a blonde. Vince loves it.
So I say 1A, 1B because I think that with my storyline, having Becky beat Asuka, but then having Becky committed to wanting to get her 2 belts back, so she enters the Rumble, and much to the applause of the masses that love Becky Lynch so much, they're happy to see her there all the way till number 30 when either 1A or 1B comes out. And 1A or 1B is Shayna Baszler or Ronda Rousey. And it's based on positioning. Because if the Women's Royal Rumble opens up the Royal Rumble, it's Shayna Baszler all the way. And it makes sense for Shayna Baszler to knock her out of the ring. And then they can go on and have a match at WrestleMania. I think, minus the fact that the one match they had, that triple threat match wasn't very good at Survivor Series. There still was that program that they were building up. For me, was one of the more exciting programs that's even come close that has involved Becky Lynch. If the Rumble is at the very end, it's got to be Ronda Rousey. Because why else would you put the Women's Rumble at the end? So that's my big dilemma. Do I think Ronda Rousey is coming back? And if I do, then I believe that it's going to be at the end of the night, and that's going to be the big pop. And on top of that, Brock likes to get in and get out and on with his life. So I'm going to pick Ronda Rousey because of that double nature thing. I know that Brock likes to, get his matches done early so he can get on his jet and go home. And then also, I'm going to go with the fact that Ronda Rousey's going to be back. But at the end of the day, if that Females Royal Rumble match is first, it's going to be Shayna. So there you go. Ronda Rousey.
Man, as much as we like the unknown, trying to pick something like this when there is not a lot of information is so tough. I see every single person's point of view on where this could go. I am actually going to take, and I had thought about it even before, I am taking Jimmy's other situation and picking Shayna Baszler. I think getting her into the mix on Raw at this point in time makes sense. And just short and sweet, I think Shayna Baszler is going to win the Women's Royal match. So that leads us to what could possibly be a terrible Men's Royal Rumble match, or if some of the things that we have talked through these last couple of days happen, could be a very, very interesting Men's Royal Rumble match. So just to go through, as of right now, confirmed entrants for the men's match, we have 26 of the 30 announced, which only leaves about 4 extras that could be surprises, could be NXT guys, could be WWE legends, could be Santino Marella, who knows? So far we know that Brock Lesnar is coming in at number 1. And then we have Roman Reigns, King Corbin, Dolph Ziggler, Eric Rowan, AJ Styles, Randy Orton, Elias, Rey Mysterio, Ricochet, Drew McIntyre, the Heavy Machinery Boys, Otis and Tucker, Rusev, Bobby Lashley, Aleister Black, one of the new Raw Tag Team Champions, Buddy Murphy, Braun Strowman, Shinsuke Nakamura, the other new Raw Tag Team Champion, Seth Rollins, Kevin Owens, Samoa Joe, Kofi Kingston, Big E, and the last 2 that were announced just the other day, The Miz and John Morrison. So that's what we got so far. Nick, you are on the clock.
Let me get this clear first. We're doing this one just at face value,
Face value.
just with no fantasy.
30 people.
Okay.
And that's gonna ruin it a little bit, but just 30 people.
Okay. I'm gonna go with Drew McIntyre. I know that's a popular and boring pick, but I think the twist is I think he ends up eliminating Brock. I don't know if Brock eliminates someone, they come back and attack him later, and he's kind of beat up, and then maybe McIntyre comes in, just like blows through him, eliminates him. That way you keep your boy Brock from eating a pin, but he still looks weak in that moment when Drew comes in and whoops his ass. He goes on to win the Rumble, and you kind of set up that. So I think Drew McIntyre's earned it. I think he's put in the work. I think he is an awesome all-around wrestler as far as his mic skills and what he's kind of doing in the ring. So I think this is kind of the moment he's been waiting for a long time, because I think he is the real deal. So I'm going to go with Drew McIntyre. 3MB for life. Love you, Jinder.
You know, there's a very good chance I pull an offer today. Like, I got a shot. Like,
No,
I think I
got
do.
at least one win.
The Bailey. Oh, the Sheamus one.
Yeah.
I mean, there's two probably there. The Bailey match and probably the Sheamus match.
Yeah.
Those are probably the two that I got. But every other one, I really do feel like I'm picking more interesting than what WWE is going to do. And I think I'm going to do the same here. I at face value for what they're saying is going to happen or who's going to be in this match, the most interesting thing for me would be for Kofi Kingston.
Damn you.
To win the Royal Rumble and get his shot back at Brock. Like, that just makes all the sense of the world because of how terrible it was originally and how great it would be for Kofi to have this road to WrestleMania and fight Brock Lesnar and retain his title and get Kofi Mania back, and how great it would be for that to turn right into a feud with the final Big E turn. Like, it would be awesome. It would be a great story. It would be a great comeback for Kofi after the terrible 9-second match he had with Brock. And at face value for what we have right now, I mean, I've been talking about a bunch of different scenarios. Like, I could see King Corbin being like the ultimate heel and winning this Royal Rumble. But the Drew McIntyre one makes sense because Drew's would be a great push and he could be the one to take down Brock. I like the idea of Finn Balor coming into this match and taking out The Fiend. I mean, there's a couple of different people that make sense at face value, but right now, I have to go with Kofi Kingston because I think that's the most interesting to me based on the guys that are in this match. Until you start naming surprises or adding more than 30, it just makes sense. So I'm going to go with Kofi.
Again, face value, 30 people. I agree 100%. Kofi Kingston. That's it.
I think that's the least.
Well,
he's
yeah,
ever talked.
me and him
yeah.
aligned. We talk a lot about picks and scenarios and stories. So sometimes when we get on these picks, we have gone through 6 or 7 different scenarios in other conversations. And when we agree on one, it's tough because one person going before the other basically just tells the whole. So that's where we are.
Do you guys want to hold hands the next time and go in as like a group pick?
I mean,
No.
I might do that just to spite you, Chuck, for making jokes like that.
There's a reason we kept them
That's
in separate
fine.
rooms.
Oh, man. I have a feeling that Jimmy and or Chris will, after we're done with this and we go to our what we would really want to happen picks, we'll talk about it a little bit. Man, it's just so, it feels so blah to me to just have it be how it is right now currently. So we get 4 surprise entrants. Yippee-ki-yay. That's great. The Kofi angle, I think, is great. And as Chris was discussing it, I was going through my head and I'd be like, what does that do for Big E then? Because then Kofi's going to move to Raw. And technically, by WWE rule, there has to be like some sort of trade. So then the Big E just stay on SmackDown. We know that what's his name is still out for a considerable amount of time, I think. So I don't know. Kofi makes sense, but I'm not going with Kofi. King Corbin makes sense to kind of keep his royal train rolling with what he's been doing. But I mean, he's going to have a match earlier in the night, and I don't see him taking it. Seth Rollins, I think there's going to be some big things going on between him and Kevin Owens, Samoa Joe. I see him maybe down in the last 10 in the ring still, but I don't see Seth winning this match. I am going to go with who I thought of from the beginning, and that's going to be who Nick also picked in Drew McIntyre. Kind of some of the things that we said about Andrade getting a nice push. I feel that Drew McIntyre is getting a push here, and I think it could be time, and I think Drew has a good shot of winning this here. So I'm going Drew McIntyre.
All right, Nickamura, fantasy booking time.
Well, from my earlier pick, I would have liked to say, the King Corbin beats down the big dog like I picked in that match, and then basically just recycle the storyline from last year. The big dog comes out at 30, limping down to the ring, saves the day. Vince McMahon gets his nut, and it's a beautiful ending for the Men's Royal Rumble. But if I'm personally fantasy booking it, it's not going to happen because what we saw in NXT last night where Finn Balor, did his little thing with Johnny Gargano and catering. So I don't think he shows up tonight. But a Demon coming in at 30, just destroying everyone and setting up something for The Fiend at WrestleMania would be so perfect. Just edit out from history the little thing where Bray Wyatt does his Sister Abigail voice. Just never show that in the vignettes, but show everything else from that feud back from, I think that was fall of 2017, if I'm not mistaken, because they had a really nice feud going before the Mumps attacked the WWE roster. So I think you can kind of bring that back. You have a couple months to build that mysterious story again. I think that is one that you can carry from January to April. So I think the Demon coming in at 30, just cleaning house, setting up a match for The Fiend at WrestleMania, that would be a really, really cool match.
I like the idea of specifically having The Fiend clean house. Because
the Demon,
you have to, or I'm sorry, sorry, the Demon. I like the idea of that because you create that separation and say, even though we have these backstage segments where Balor is attacking Gargano again, we're making the separation and saying two separate people, two separate entities, and using him twice as much. I mean,
I wouldn't get sick of him. He's a great wrestler, and his first, title reign got cut short because of injury, unfortunately. So I think it'd be really cool. I could watch Finn Balor wrestle twice a week, once on Raw, or once on SmackDown, once on NXT.
Christopher,
this is tough because this is like, is it something we want to see, or is it just something we think could happen?
There's no rules here. Whatever you want. The only rule is there are no rules.
All right, I like that. No rules. So with no rules, we've again, we've had a lot of discussions about what could happen and everything this weekend. We're in Texas, so I could see a situation, and I don't like it, but I'm going to say it. I could see a situation where The Undertaker comes out and The Undertaker eliminates Brock late in the match, and The Undertaker gets his shot at Brock one more time at WrestleMania. That being said, I hate it. I don't like it.
Can we say we were talking about this in the room and I was like asleep and I woke up and he pitched it to me and I go, no, that sucks. And then I went back to sleep.
Yeah. And I said, yeah, it does. And he went back amongst other random things that Jimmy did while he was sleeping. But yeah, about a quarter year ago. So the other scenario, which I actually think is more likely tonight, what if John Cena comes back? What if John Cena's here? What if John Cena is in the Rumble and John Cena wants one more title and he wants one more big WrestleMania moment? And wouldn't that be John Cena, Brock Lesnar? Wouldn't that be John Cena winning one more to be the ultimate, champion, have the biggest amount? What is it, 17, 18 championships?
Well, Flair's got way more than that, but what they call them, yeah.
Yeah, like And how much would the place go crazy if John Cena now finally comes back?
Well, Nick
He hasn't been back for a while.
Nick was dancing in the room, by the way. When you said John Cena, he started throwing his hand in front of his face. He's super excited.
He didn't see me. That's a lie.
Oh yeah, sorry, I didn't see him.
I can't see him. And I just think it would be interesting. I think it would make sense. I think it would be good pop. I think it would be good for WrestleMania. I think it would make an interesting match. I mean, if you got nothing else for Brock right now, which I feel like they don't, other than Cain Velasquez, which I'm not into. I think a lot of people are not into. I think that would be interesting, and I think that's one of my, dream matches that I would like to see, and I'd be fine with it. Brock's been showing up. You could have a build with Heyman and Cena, just having promos back and forth. It'd be interesting. They don't have to fight week to week. They don't even have to have matches. Just let them cut promos for weeks, for months, and I'm fine with that. And there's other stories going on that you can build to WrestleMania and have a really good main event with Brock versus Cena one more time. So that's where I'm at.
So it's interesting with the fantasy booking. I didn't realize that even with all this fantasy booking that we've been talking about, I never actually said who I wanted to win or who I thought would be the most interesting. My fantasy booking goes like this. The most important part of it is that Brock has been talking a lot of crap with Paul Heyman. It's been a lot of crap about how there's nobody in the locker room that can handle, and I think that to your point about the John Cena pick, you're right. John Cena isn't in the locker room. So that pick makes a lot of sense. Even now, even as like a face value pick, that pick makes a lot of sense. Where I'm at though, is I think somebody like Triple H or Shawn Michaels or William Regal, they can take offense to all that talk. One of them, at some point during the Rumble, are going to come out and say, Brock, you and Paul Heyman, or maybe even as before, who knows? Maybe it's a backstage segment. You guys talk a big game about how you can take care of the locker room on Raw and the locker room on SmackDown, but we brought our people. Let's see if you can handle them. And then you immediately jump up 10, 15 picks, however many picks, and make the men's Rumble huge. Now that the men's Rumble is huge, I don't really care what you do with Brock Lesnar. You could have a guy like John Cena come out and eliminate him, I guess. But I'm more interested in, and this is why, okay, the reason that this is pure fantasy booking is because The Fiend exists. It's awful. He doesn't need to have the belt because there's more interesting people that people could go after. But I'm going to bank on one of my favorite Brock Lesnar storylines, one of the opponents that I thought was best against him, that had the best promos against him, that I really, really wanted to beat Brock Lesnar and he didn't get a chance to. And I'm saying at the end of the night, regardless of who eliminates Brock Lesnar, because Brock Lesnar still then has to deal with the fact that whoever wins that Rumble is going to challenge them out of these two people. The last two people in the ring are going to be Kevin Owens and Samoa Joe. And they have done a good job of taking care of Seth Rollins' little group. And it's okay, because whoever doesn't win this match can then deal with Seth Rollins. That can be a natural thing, unless, with some of the things we've talked about, they're already going to do dissension and just ruin everything with that. But let's not get into that yet. But I like the idea of having Samoa Joe and KO, these two guys that have worked so well with each other, to be the last two in the ring with each other. And they really go at it. But Samoa Joe comes on top because Samoa Joe is the most underappreciated wrestler possibly in all of WWE. The guy can wrestle. He can cut the most badass promo. He's done it time and time again. And when he was facing Brock Lesnar, that program, that was like, oh my, I believe in Samoa Joe. He needs to win this, but he was never going to, based on how they booked him. Well, this is the time. This is where you give Samoa Joe that shot and you let him take Brock down. Because as Samoa Joe goes through his career, eventually, he's going to run out of those opportunities, and we all want him on the mic again. So this is the best time. Like, you know, and if in the meantime, between now and WrestleMania, he can have a program with Kevin Owens. And that program, oh my God, the promos in that program, get out of here. Get out of here. So that's my fantasy booking. I do believe it's not going to be a 30-man Royal Rumble. I believe it'll be more like 40. And I believe that it'll be Samoa Joe and KO at the end, and that Joe will eliminate Kevin Owens.
So Jimmy touched on some of the stuff that we talked about, the Royal Rumble not being just 30 participants. It's kind of, in my opinion, and some of ours agreeing opinions, it's pretty shitty that there hasn't been one person from NXT announced for the Royal Rumble. We all know, and if you're listening, you should know that NXT is the best show that WWE has going on right now.
A show.
And they are getting slapped in the face right now. Truth be told, Christopher and myself have tweeted Triple H earlier yesterday, I believe, that he better get on his and get some of his NXT peeps into this Royal Rumble here. So with that being said, if that happens and this goes to a 40-man battle royal and we get some surprises and we get some NXT people in here, Texas, I love the opportunity of like an Undertaker. I love the Undertaker. He's always been one of my two favorite wrestlers. He's had some crappy matches. He's also had some great matches. If you listen to our the Baldies Awards, his match was my match of the decade. I don't see him coming back. We are also in Texas. You know, Stone Cold is from Texas. That would be kind of cool. I don't see that happening either. HBK. I would love to see that. I think it would be a huge pop here. But I don't see that happening either. All the rumors of CM Punk around the internet, I don't think that's going to happen. The rumors of Edge, I don't think that's going to happen. What I would enjoy seeing would be someone like Matt Riddle. And he tweeted out a little teaser yesterday of some WWE action figures, I think it was. And I think it would be interesting to have him get in here and, you know, start doing some stuff with some of the main, what they term main roster guys on Raw and SmackDown. It's so hard because you could pick this 100 different ways to see what you would want to happen. But I could see Matt Riddle coming in and doing some damage before, and we'll give some props to Keith Lee for winning the North American Championship on NXT. Before he won that, my pick for this would have been Keith Lee. I just don't see him getting in the. He might be in the match, but I if they expand it, but I don't see him winning now that he actually has an NXT. So my little fantasy booking here would be Matt Riddle, and he actually throws Brock over the top rope, and they have a little bit of beef going on there. And who knows? Maybe we see Riddle dethrone Lesnar. So Matt Riddle is my pick for me.
So real quick around the horn, and we'll do the same order. You don't need to get into like the stories behind it, but fantasy booking winner of the females Royal Rumble. If you could have anybody win it all, who would you have win, Nick?
Put me on the spot.
It's better that way.
Yeah, it's true. I would say Alexa Bliss, just because I love my blondes, and she's such a good, speaker, such a good, so good on the mic that I think she could carry a storyline for a couple months, which is necessary when you win the Royal Rumble.
Chris?
I don't know.
Anybody. I mean,
Anybody show. Probably have to go to NXT. I'm trying to think about who on NXT deserves the most. EO's hurt, unfortunately. If I take that into account, I can't pick EO. So I don't know, man. That's tough because I feel like they haven't promoted people enough to build that up for a Royal Rumble win.
but who cares about that?
I would love.
It's a fantasy pick. That's the point.
Yeah, I'll wait. Yeah,
doesn't need to make sense. I'm clarifying that because he's sitting there like making all these reasons for I can't pick that. I'm like, I didn't say that. I said fantasy pick somebody.
Chris is about to break through the wall.
Whatever.
As I was talking through my decision making, I was going to pick Sonya Deville because I like Sonya Deville and I think she deserves a push. And I think they could build a story around her for being a champion and being a good champion. So Sonya Deville, I'm done. Somebody else can talk.
Ember Moon. See how easy that was?
You got to go third. You had all the time in the world.
I knew it. I knew it when I asked the question.
Right, which is also unfair.
Well, but it's not that. It wasn't that complicated of a question. Again, this is like based on like, oh, like he has an infatuations with blondes. That's why he picked a blonde.
Well, now it's to me, and I have had the most time to think about it, and I mean, I don't even know. I mean, I said earlier in the trip that it would be cool if Ember Moon came out for the Rumble, the Women's Rumble. That would be a nice surprise since she has been off TV for a while. I mean, not that I would really want to see it happening, but someone coming back from being gone, even though I despise this person, they're in the ranks of my Roman Reigns, King Corbin, sometimes Brock Lesnar-esque on my list. There would be Nia Jax. I mean, I could see her coming in and just rolling through everybody, probably killing half the female roster because she is a very unsafe wrestler. And yeah.
That's the deep breath pick, right? The one where you go,
yeah.
Nia Jax.
Yeah.
Well, Houston, Texas. Thank you for letting us do a podcast in Houston. It's been fun. It's been fun to have Nickamura around too, talking a little bit more.
Gonna have some In-N-Out burger, gonna have some beers, and we're gonna be positive today. It's gonna be all positive from the Bald Monkeys.
Positivity, but
just give us something interesting. Like give us something surprising. I always talk about this week to week, right? Give me a pop. Let me feel like a kid again. Make me geek out. Make me, freak out that the hurricane's back. I don't care who it is. Just I want to geek out a little bit. I want to feel like I'm 14 again and just enjoying wrestling and enjoying the surprise of the Royal Rumble. My favorite pay-per-view, everyone's favorite pay-per-view, the best pay-per-view to be at live. I want to be exhausted by the end of the night from going up and down and counting down and just having a good time. And I just hope WWE doesn't ruin it by having some stupid, terrible surprise or no surprise at all. So I don't know. It's going to be fun. It's going to be a lot of people, huge venue, something we've never done before. It's going to be a good time. And hopefully Chuck doesn't beat up a minor.
Yep.
Or anybody in general.
Anyone in general, but specifically a minor.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Just don't have Cain Velasquez be number 30 and eliminate Brock Lesnar, or I'll die on the inside.
I'll die on the inside if John Cena wins because I'll be so happy.
To be honest, I would be okay if Cain Velasquez came out and got rid of Brock Lesnar, as long as Cain Velasquez did not win the Royal Rumble.
I don't know. If that's how the night ends,
it would be terrible. If that's how it ends, yeah, then
Philly wasn't bad.
WWE, I want my money back.
We kind of thought Rousey was going to be there in Philly, and the way it ended, it was interesting. It was fun. It was a good pop. I don't know. I'm not positive, and we're trying to be positive, but I just don't feel positive about how tonight's going to end. But to Jimmy's point, it's going to be very interesting how they lay this out and how they lay out the matches tonight, because I think it's going to be telling on what they have in their pocket.
Am I allowed to change my pick if the women's Royal Rumble's first?
Yeah, I mean, there's no rules. So you just change whatever you want. I mean, at this point, we're just all chasing Chuckle.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know that that's even against the rules so much. It's regards to, like, I'm so dead set on it being about position that really is what matters. But I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. I'll be wrong. Fucking Sasha Banks will win, and we'll have to bow. Like, the guy who said he's going over is going to go perfect, and he's going to be impossible to fucking live with.
Oh, yeah.
No, man, we'll never hear the end of it. And you want to know what the good thing about that is I don't really have to hear that because I'm not going back to the same place that he is. But Jimmy, you are.
Yeah, we'll be on the same flipping planes.
I'll wave to you from up front. And,
oh my God, shut up.
Comfy seat. But listen, like, seriously, like, if the women's Rumble goes first, and I kind of prefaced this when we first started, if WWE has something like some amazing, that the reason why there's only 30 guys, the reason why they've told us everyone else in the Rumble already, they must have the greatest one surprise that they ever could come up with.
CM Punk.
Word Life John Cena.
See, it's not Word Life. It's CM Punk.
But that's the thing. Like, it's almost forgivable if they have that one surprise that's so big that they only need one surprise. But I don't think that's the case. I just don't. So that's the only way it's forgivable. And I'm not even that excited for that to be the moment. But I don't know. To me, I like Jimmy's angle. I like the addition of people. I like a bigger Royal Rumble. I like the surprises of it. So,
and I bet you,
I'm hoping for.
I bet you like my fantasy booking though too, don't you? KO versus Joe, final two. It's pretty good stuff.
It is complete fantasy.
It's way too good to be true.
I will buy you drinks for the rest of your life. That's how it ends.
You heard it here first, folks.
It is on the record.
That is for sure. That is a easy bet for me. It's just not happening.
The thing is when it comes down to surprises, what Christopher thinks is a great surprise for him, I might not think it is for me. What I think it is for me, you guys might completely disagree. So yeah, it's one of those things. You're never going to please 100% of the people 100% of the time. So they could
please me and don't worry about anybody else.
So they could come out with a phenomenal surprise. They could resurrect and have the ultimate Frankenstein warrior, and he could limp down the walkway from the Astros dugout all the way to second base,
zombie,
and come in. Yeah, but I mean, you never know. Who knows? WWE. We always say it. Please, just do the right thing and open this up to 10 more people.
My closing thought,
That's
in addition to thanking you guys for having me on, is in the 2003 Royal Rumble, John Cena came out
by Walter.
John Cena came out in his throwback Astros jersey and cut a huge little freestyle on the way to the ring. If he comes out and does that tonight at number 30 in his throwback Astros jersey in Houston, Chuck, you're going to have to kill me because I'm going to be so annoying because I'm going to be cheering so loud. And it's going to be the greatest moment in Royal Rumble history if he does that. And it sets it up for him versus Brock.
The good thing is you're in the row in front of us, so we could be like, we don't even know this dude.
Like, you just start beating him up and be like, he turned around and spit on me. Well, that's been our time, ladies and gentlemen. We appreciate you joining us for this special episode of the Bald Monkeys Wrestling Podcast. I gotta stop it here so that I can do all my conversions and upload it and get it set so we can go eat some lunch before we go start
burger time.
Start doing our stuff. In and out, baby. Don't have them on the East Coast, so enjoy them when you can get them. But yep, thank you guys as always. It's been a fun trip so far. It's going to be, I mean, the Rumble could be just total dreck, and we're still going to have a good time. That's not going to stop us. So there's my little bit of positivity through the negative vibes, right? I'm going to have a good time no matter what.
So let's count it down, Jimmy. Let's count it down for the first time today and not the last time.
From 10,
10,
9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Man, that was really hard to do and from 2 rooms, and it's probably going to be like 3, 3, 2, 2, 1, 1.
Yeah.
And it actually gets recorded.
Yeah. All right, thank you, everybody.
Hey, just enjoy the Royal Rumble, everybody.
Yeah, enjoy it. We'll see you next week.